The arrival of counterterrorism specialists marked a new phase in the investigation. Detective Chief Superintendent James Crawford, no relation to the dog handler, arrived to take overall command of what was now classified as a potential terrorist incident. His 25 years of experience included some of Britain's most sensitive security cases. Right, Crawford announced to the assembled team leaders, "We're treating this as attempted regicide until proven otherwise. That means full counter-terrorism protocols, complete forensic analysis, and a thorough investigation of everyone with access to the vehicle." Dr. Sarah Chun, a forensic chemistry specialist from the government's defense laboratory, began the most detailed analysis yet of the explosive traces found on Queen Camilla's Bentley. Her equipment could not only identify the specific type of explosive compound, but potentially trace its origin and how it came to be on the vehicle. The explosive residue is consistent with Semtex, a plastic explosive commonly used in terrorist attacks, Dr. Chen reported after her initial analysis. However, the distribution pattern is unusual. Instead of being concentrated in one location as you'd expect with a planted device, it's spread across a wide area of the vehicle's rear section. This finding suggested several possibilities, none of them comforting. The explosive material might have been intended as contamination to trigger security alerts and disrupt royal activities. Alternatively, it could be residue from a failed attempt to plant an actual device or evidence of reconnaissance for a future attack. Detective Sergeant Holmes's investigation into the mysterious maintenance worker had expanded dramatically. Security footage from cameras around the royal residence was being analyzed frame by frame. Personnel records were being cross-referenced with known terrorist suspects and criminal databases. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Maria Santos, a cleaning supervisor who worked late shifts at the royal residence, remembered seeing someone she didn't recognize near the vehicle garage on the previous evening. "I noticed him because he was wearing the wrong uniform," Santos explained when interviewed. "Our maintenance staff wore dark blue coveralls with the royal household crest. This man was wearing plain brown coveralls, and I thought that was strange." Santos provided a detailed description: a man in his 30s, average height, dark hair, carrying what appeared to be a small toolbox. She had assumed he was a contractor working on some emergency repair and hadn't thought to question his presence at the time. This description was immediately circulated to all law enforcement agencies. Within hours, it matched a person of interest already known to counterterrorism police, David Richards, a former military explosive specialist who had been radicalized after leaving the army and was suspected of involvement in previous terrorist plots. "Richards has been on our watch list for 2 years, explained Detective Inspector Caroline Walsh from the Counterterrorism Unit. "He's technically skilled, has access to military-grade explosives through his criminal contacts, and has made threats against the royal family in intercepted communications." The search for Richards became the investigation's top priority. His known addresses were raided simultaneously, but he was not found at any of them. However, investigators discovered evidence that confirmed their worst fears: detailed surveillance photos of royal residences, including close-up images of Queen Camilla's Bentley. This was definitely a planned operation, Detective Chief Superintendent Crawford concluded. Richards had been conducting reconnaissance for weeks, possibly months. "We need to find him before he makes another attempt." Meanwhile, the forensic analysis of the Bentley continued to reveal disturbing details. Dr. Chun discovered that the explosive residue wasn't randomly distributed but followed specific patterns that suggested someone had deliberately contaminated the vehicle. The pattern indicates that someone wearing gloves contaminated with Semtex deliberately touched specific areas of the car, she explained. The fuel tank area, the exhaust system, and the rear axle were all targeted. This suggests either preparation for planting a device or an attempt to create maximum alarm when the contamination was detected. Queen Camilla was briefed on these developments in the secure command vehicle. Despite the gravity of the threat, she remained remarkably composed, asking practical questions about the investigation's progress and the safety of her staff. "I'm concerned about the household employees who might be worried about their security clearances," she said. "Please ensure they understand that being questioned is routine procedure and doesn't reflect any suspicion of wrongdoing." Her consideration for others, even while being the target of what appeared to be a terrorist plot, exemplified the grace under pressure that had characterized her public service for decades. The manhunt for David Richards expanded across the country. His military background meant he possessed skills that made him particularly dangerous, including knowledge of surveillance techniques, explosive devices, and tactical operations. Police warned that he should be considered extremely dangerous and not approached by civilians. Rex, the German shepherd whose detection had prevented what could have been a catastrophe, was being hailed as a hero within police circles. His accurate identification of explosive contamination had potentially saved Queen Camilla's life and exposed a serious terrorist plot. "That dog is worth his weight in gold," commented Police Constable Crawford, Rex's handler. "His nose detected traces so small that our electronic equipment almost missed them. Without his alert, this whole plot might have gone undetected until it was too late." The investigation revealed that Richards had been planning something far more sophisticated than simple contamination. Additional evidence found in his abandoned flat included detailed technical drawings for explosive devices designed to be triggered by remote control. The contamination of Queen Camilla's vehicle appeared to have been a test run for a larger operation. "He was testing our response procedures," Detective Chief Superintendent Crawford realized. "By contaminating the vehicle with trace amounts, he could observe how we reacted, what our protocols were, and how long our investigation took. That intelligence would have been invaluable for planning an actual attack." 3 days after the initial incident, Richards was finally located and arrested at a safe house in Manchester. The arrest was carried out by armed police who took no chances with someone of his training and dangerous intentions. In his possession were additional explosive materials and detailed plans for an attack on a future royal engagement. During his interrogation, Richards revealed the extent of his planning. He had spent months studying royal security procedures, identifying potential vulnerabilities, and developing methods for bypassing protection systems. The contamination incident had been intended as reconnaissance for a much more serious attack planned for Queen Camilla's next public appearance. He had been planning this for over a year, Detective Inspector Walsh explained to the investigation team. The level of detail in his planning was extraordinary. Without Rex's detection, he would have gathered the intelligence he needed to launch a devastating attack. The security implications were enormous. A thorough review of royal protection procedures was immediately initiated, with particular attention to access control around royal residences and vehicle security protocols. The fact that Richards had been able to approach Queen Camilla's vehicle undetected represented a serious failure that needed immediate correction. Queen Camilla's postponed charity visit to Bath was rescheduled with enhanced security measures. When she finally made the journey 2 weeks later, additional explosive detection dogs accompanied the convoy, security sweeps were more frequent, and background checks on anyone with access to royal vehicles were significantly strengthened. At the charity event, Queen Camilla spoke briefly about the importance of dedicated public servants, including police officers and security personnel who worked tirelessly to protect others. Though she didn't specifically mention the recent incident, her words carried special meaning for those who knew what had transpired. Rex received formal recognition for his service, including a commendation from the Metropolitan Police Commissioner. More importantly, his detection had exposed a terrorist network that extended beyond Richards himself, leading to additional arrests and the disruption of other planned attacks. The investigation's conclusion brought some comfort, but also sobering realities. While this particular threat had been neutralized, it demonstrated that determined terrorists could come dangerously close to their targets even despite sophisticated security systems. Detective Chief Inspector Mitchell, reflecting on the incident weeks later, emphasized the crucial role that Rex had played. "Without that dog's detection, we would never have known about the contamination, never discovered Richards's surveillance, and never uncovered his attack plans." One German shepherd's nose prevented what could have been one of the most serious terrorist attacks in British history. The incident became a case study in security services training programs, highlighting both the vulnerabilities that terrorists could exploit and the importance of multi-layered protection systems. Rex's detection had proven that sometimes the most advanced technology in the world was no substitute for a well-trained dog's superior senses. For Queen Camilla, the incident was handled with the same dignity and courage that had characterized her approach to public service throughout her life. She continued her royal duties without visible concern, though those responsible for her protection knew that the threat landscape had evolved, and their vigilance needed to evolve with it. The explosive ordnance disposal team worked with methodical precision around Queen Camilla's Bentley, while Rex maintained his alert posture nearby. Sergeant Williams directed his team's movements as they began the delicate process of investigating what had triggered the detection dog's response. "Start with a visual inspection of the entire exterior," Williams instructed. "Look for anything that doesn't belong, any recent modifications, scratches, or disturbances to the vehicle's surface." Detective Chief Inspector Mitchell coordinated the expanding security operation from a command vehicle that had arrived within minutes of the alert. Maps spread across tables showed road closures, evacuation zones, and the positions of various emergency services. The radio chattered constantly with updates from different units. "Control to all units. We now have a 3-kilometer exclusion zone in place. Local police are diverting all traffic away from the area. Air support is maintaining overwatch," came the professional voice of the operations coordinator. Queen Camilla, now safely positioned in the backup vehicle, observed the activity with remarkable composure. She had lived through decades of security alerts, from IRA threats in the 1970s and 80s to more recent international terrorism concerns. Her experience had taught her that remaining calm was essential both for her own well-being and for the effectiveness of her protection team. "Sarah," she called to Detective Chief Inspector Mitchell, "might I suggest we contact the charity organizers in Bath? They should know we may be delayed, though I'd prefer not to alarm them unnecessarily." Mitchell nodded appreciatively. Even under these circumstances, Queen Camilla was thinking about others who might be affected by the situation. "I'll have that arranged immediately, Your Majesty. We'll tell them there's been a minor mechanical issue that may cause a delay." Meanwhile, the technical investigation of the Royal Bentley was revealing puzzling details. The explosive ordnance team had found no obvious signs of tampering with the vehicle's exterior. No suspicious packages were visible, no unusual attachments or modifications could be detected, and the car appeared exactly as it should. Yet Rex remained adamant. The German Shepherd continued to show intense interest in the rear portion of the vehicle, particularly around the area near the fuel tank and exhaust system. His handler, Police Constable Crawford, had never seen his partner react so strongly to a false alarm. "The dog's behavior is absolutely consistent with a positive detection," Crawford reported to the command team. "Rex doesn't make mistakes about this sort of thing. If he says there's something there, there's something there." Sergeant Williams approached the vehicle with increasingly sophisticated detection equipment. Electronic sensors that could identify trace amounts of various explosive compounds were deployed around the Bentley. The readings would take several minutes to process, but they would provide scientific confirmation or contradiction of Rex's indication. Dr. Elizabeth Hampton, a forensic explosives expert who had arrived with the ordnance disposal team, supervised the technical analysis. Her expertise had been crucial in previous high-profile cases, and her reputation for thorough, accurate work had made her a key figure in royal protection protocols. "We need to consider all possibilities," Dr. Hampton explained to Detective Chief Inspector Mitchell. "The detection could indicate recent exposure to explosive materials rather than current presence. Someone who handled explosives could have touched the vehicle, or the car might have been parked near construction work involving blasting." This explanation offered a glimmer of hope, but the security team couldn't afford to assume the best-case scenario. They continued to treat the situation as an active threat while methodically eliminating possibilities. The investigation expanded beyond the vehicle itself. Background checks were being run on everyone who had access to Queen Camilla's car in the previous 48 hours. This included royal household staff, security personnel, mechanics, and anyone else who might have come near the vehicle. Detective Sergeant Patricia Holmes, who specialized in royal household security, began coordinating these background investigations. "I want to know everyone who has been within 50 meters of this vehicle since its last security inspection," she directed her team. Gardeners, cleaners, delivery personnel, everyone. The list was surprisingly long. Royal residences were busy places with constant activity. Gardeners maintained the extensive grounds, cleaning staff ensured everything was immaculate. Security teams conducted regular patrols and inspections, and various tradespeople carried out maintenance work on buildings and vehicles. Among those who had recent access was Thomas McCarthy, a longtime member of the Royal Household Maintenance staff. He had been with the family for 15 years and held the highest security clearances. His background was impeccable, and his loyalty had never been questioned. However, Holmes discovered that McCarthy had worked late the previous evening, conducting routine maintenance on several royal vehicles, including Queen Camilla's Bentley. The maintenance log showed he had checked fluid levels, tire pressure, and general mechanical condition of the car. "Get me McCarthy on the phone," Holmes instructed. "I want to know exactly what work he performed and whether he noticed anything unusual." Thomas McCarthy answered his mobile phone on the second ring. He was at home, having finished his shift the previous evening, but he immediately recognized the seriousness in Detective Sergeant Holmes's voice. "Yes, I worked on Her Majesty's car last night," McCarthy confirmed. "Just the usual pre-journey inspection. Everything was perfectly normal. Is there some kind of problem?" Holmes questioned him carefully about his activities, the tools he had used, and whether he had encountered any other personnel around the vehicle. McCarthy's answers were consistent and detailed, showing the thoroughness that had made him valuable to the royal household for so many years. But one detail caught Holmes's attention. McCarthy mentioned that he had seen another maintenance worker near the garage area late in the evening, someone he didn't recognize. "Thought it was odd," McCarthy said. "Most of us finish up earlier than that. This fellow was working on something near the fuel storage area." This information was immediately relayed to the command team. An unidentified worker near the royal vehicles represented a serious security breach, regardless of any connection to the current situation. Detective Chief Inspector Mitchell ordered an immediate investigation into who this person might have been and what they were doing in a restricted area. The security logs were reviewed urgently. Every person entering and leaving the royal residence was supposed to be recorded, their credentials verified, and their activities monitored. But the logs showed no record of any unauthorized maintenance worker being present the previous evening. Either our security procedures failed, or this person wasn't supposed to be there, Mitchell concluded grimly. The implications were troubling regardless of which explanation proved correct. Dr. Hampton's electronic analysis of the Bentley was beginning to yield results. The sophisticated sensors had detected trace amounts of a commercial explosive compound on the rear exterior of the vehicle, concentrated around the fuel tank area. The amounts were minute, barely detectable even with advanced equipment, but they were definitely present. "This confirms the dog's indication," Dr. Hampton reported. "There are explosive residues on this vehicle. The question now is whether they represent a current threat or contamination from an external source." The discovery of actual explosive traces transformed the situation from a precautionary investigation into a confirmed security incident. Every protocol for dealing with potential terrorist threats was now in effect, and the investigation would be expanded to involve counterterrorism specialists. Queen Camilla received updates on the developing situation with her characteristic calm. When informed that explosive traces had been found on her vehicle, she simply nodded and asked, "What do we need to do to ensure everyone's safety?" "We're bringing in additional specialists to determine the exact nature and extent of any threat," Detective Chief Inspector Mitchell explained. "In the meantime, we'll need to keep you in the secure vehicle while the investigation continues." The charity event in Bath was quietly postponed. Organizers were told only that Queen Camilla had encountered an unavoidable delay and would reschedule her visit at the earliest opportunity. The real reason for the cancellation remained classified while the investigation proceeded. As afternoon approached, the investigation had expanded into a major multi-agency operation. Counterterrorism police, MI5 security service personnel, and additional explosive experts were converging on the scene. The peaceful Gloucestershire countryside had become the center of one of the most serious royal security incidents in recent memory. Rex, the German shepherd whose detection had initiated the entire operation, remained with his handler near the investigation site. His training kept him alert and ready, though the immediate intensity of his reaction had subsided once the vehicle had been secured and the area cleared. The investigation was far from over, but one thing had already become clear. Rex's detection had been accurate, and his alert had potentially prevented a catastrophic incident. Whether the explosive traces represented an active assassination attempt or some other threat remained to be determined, but the seriousness of the situation was no longer in doubt. The morning sun cast long shadows across the manicured grounds of Highgrove House as Queen Camilla's convoy prepared for departure. The familiar routine of a royal journey was about to be disrupted in ways no one could have anticipated. Detective Chief Inspector Sarah Mitchell adjusted her earpiece and surveyed the scene with practiced eyes. 23 years of protection duty had taught her to notice everything, from the way drivers checked their mirrors to the subtle tension in a security dog's posture. Today felt different, though she couldn't quite put her finger on why. The convoy consisted of 4 vehicles: the lead car carrying advanced security, the Queen's official Bentley with its distinctive royal standard, a backup vehicle, and the rear protection unit. Each had been thoroughly inspected according to protocol, their routes planned, and alternative paths mapped. The destination was a charity event in Bath, a journey Queen Camilla had made dozens of times before. All units, final security sweep complete, crackled the voice of Sergeant Thompson through the radio. We're clear for departure in 10 minutes. Queen Camilla emerged from Highgrove House, her warm smile greeting the small gathered staff. At 76, she moved with the practiced grace of someone accustomed to public life, yet retained the approachable demeanor that had endeared her to many. She wore a cream-colored coat with a sapphire brooch, her silver hair perfectly styled despite the early hour. "Good morning, everyone," she said, pausing to speak with the household staff who had gathered to see her off. "Such a lovely day for the drive." Detective Chief Inspector Mitchell approached with a respectful nod. "Your Majesty, we're ready to depart. The weather is clear, traffic is light, and we should arrive in Bath with time to spare." As the Queen settled into her vehicle, the convoy engines started in perfect synchronization. The lead car pulled away first, followed by the Royal Bentley, then the support vehicles. The familiar procession moved smoothly down the private drive and onto the public road. The route to Bath took them through some of Gloucestershire's most beautiful countryside. Rolling hills dotted with sheep, ancient stone walls, and picturesque villages passed by the tinted windows. Queen Camilla often enjoyed these journeys, watching the landscape change with the seasons and occasionally commenting on landmarks or memories associated with particular places. About 20 minutes into the journey, they approached the village of Tetbury. The convoy maintained its steady pace, with security vehicles maintaining precise distances and speeds. Radio chatter was minimal, professional, and routine. Everything appeared normal. It was then that Rex made his presence known. Rex was a 4-year-old German Shepherd, one of the Metropolitan Police's most experienced explosive detection dogs. His handler, Police Constable James Crawford, had been working with him for 3 years. Their partnership had uncovered everything from suspicious packages at train stations to hidden weapons in criminal investigations. Rex's nose was legendary within the force, capable of detecting minute traces of explosives that even the most sophisticated electronic equipment might miss. The dog team had been positioned at a checkpoint just outside Tetbury as part of the standard security arrangements. Rex sat alertly beside Crawford as they watched the approach of the royal convoy, his ears pricked and his dark eyes scanning the approaching vehicles. As the lead security car passed their position, Rex remained calm. The backup vehicle drew near, and still he showed no reaction. But as Queen Camilla's Bentley approached, something changed. Rex's head lifted sharply. His nostrils flared as he caught a scent that shouldn't have been there. In one fluid motion, the highly trained dog stood, his body tense with focused attention. He took a step toward the road, his nose working furiously to isolate and identify what he had detected. Police Constable Crawford felt the change in his partner immediately. After years of working together, he could read Rex's body language like a book. This wasn't casual interest or the normal alertness of a working dog. This was a positive indication. "Control, this is Crawford." He spoke urgently into his radio. "Rex is showing strong interest in the royal vehicle. Recommend immediate halt for investigation." The words sent a chill through every security officer monitoring the communications. A positive indication from an explosive detection dog was never taken lightly, but during a royal movement, It represented a potential catastrophe. Detective Chief Inspector Mitchell's voice cut through the radio channels with calm authority. All units, immediate halt. Form defensive perimeter around principal vehicle. Code red procedures in effect. The convoy came to a smooth but urgent stop. Within seconds, security personnel emerged from their vehicles, their movements precise and purposeful. Years of training and countless rehearsals had prepared them for exactly this scenario, though none of them had hoped to use those skills in a real situation. Queen Camilla, sensing the change in atmosphere but not yet aware of the specific threat, remained seated in her vehicle as instructed. The windows were bulletproof and the car itself was armored, making it one of the safest places she could be while the situation was assessed. "What's happening, Sarah?" she asked Detective Chief Inspector Mitchell through the intercom system. "Just a routine security check, Your Majesty. We'll have you moving again shortly," Mitchell replied, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her system. Rex, meanwhile, continued to show intense interest in the Royal Bentley. He circled the vehicle with his handler, his behavior becoming more agitated as he approached the rear of the car. Police Constable Crawford watched his partner carefully, noting every movement and reaction. "He's definitely onto something," Crawford reported. "Strongest reaction I've seen from him in months. Whatever it is, it's concentrated around the rear of the vehicle." Additional security units were arriving by the minute. Roads were being sealed, air support was being scrambled, and explosive ordnance disposal teams were racing toward the location. The peaceful Gloucestershire morning was rapidly transforming into a major security operation. The decision was made to move Queen Camilla to the backup vehicle while Rex and his handler conducted a thorough examination of the Bentley. This transfer was accomplished with military precision, security personnel forming a human shield around the Queen as she moved the short distance between cars. "I do hope this won't make us terribly late," Queen Camilla commented with characteristic grace under pressure. "The charity organizers have worked so hard on this event." As the explosive ordnance team arrived and began their careful examination of the royal vehicle, Rex continued to display the behavior that had stopped the convoy. His training had taught him to indicate the presence of explosive materials, and everything about his reaction suggested he had found exactly that. The implications were staggering. How had explosive material come to be associated with Queen Camilla's official vehicle? The car had been thoroughly inspected before departure, its route was classified, and security around royal vehicles was among the tightest in the world. Sergeant Williams from the Explosive Ordnance Disposal Unit approached Detective Chief Inspector Mitchell. "Ma'am, we need to treat this as a genuine threat until proven otherwise. I recommend establishing a much wider perimeter and bringing in additional resources." The investigation was about to begin in earnest, but already questions were mounting. Had there been a security breach? Was this an assassination attempt? Or was there another explanation for Rex's behavior that no one had yet considered? As emergency services continued to arrive and the security perimeter expanded, one thing was certain. What had begun as a routine royal journey was now a major incident that would test every aspect of the protection systems designed to keep the British royal family safe. The morning sun continued to shine over the Gloucestershire countryside, but for everyone involved in Queen Camilla's protection, the day had taken a decidedly darker turn. The real investigation was just beginning.